Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tristate with Tiny and Katy.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, powered by HomeRight Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State.
Our first interview today, we're going to be talking with Marcie Taylor, who is a bereavement educator, and you helped to establish the Drew Michael Taylor Foundation. And what I think is so admirable about you, Marcie, and your family is that you were able to take such a tragedy and turn it into something positive in the community. So first, tell us about Drew and how this foundation came to be.
So Drew was my son. He was 3.5 when he died in a car accident. We were vacationing in the Outer Banks, and an improperly loaded logging truck hit our family's van. Drew died later that day. He had been life flighted to Norfolk. I was seriously injured. Luckily, my mom, husband, and daughter, who were also in the car, were not seriously injured. But we, like many grieving families do, started very quickly asking why. You know, why us? Why Drew? Where do we go from here? And we realized very quickly you will never answer the why, at least not in a satisfactory way. But what we did know was that Drew's 3.5 years couldn't be enough. He had to continue to make a positive impact on this world. And for him to be able to do that, it would have to be through us. So we created a foundation in his name. When we started, we had no idea what that was going to look like. We just knew, you know, foundations did good things for people, and Bill Gates had a really big foundation. So that was sort of our starting point. But we knew we wanted to make a positive difference in the lives of kids. In the beginning, we were doing, you know, community service awards and scholarships. We created a preschool readiness program in the Shippensburg School District, but we quickly found that our area just really lacked grief support services. So we did a shift early on and said, you know, we need this kind of programming. We had to go to Harrisburg, to Highmark Caring Place, to find support for our family. We were blessed with a local bereaved parent support group, but we just couldn't find anything for our daughter, who was 6 and turned 7 shortly after her brother's death. So we created a program for families in our area, and we've since expanded on that. And through Drew's foundation, we've just allowed him to continue to make a really big impact far beyond his 3.5 years. He actually would be 22 now.
Wow.
We've been doing this work for 18 years.
So you have support groups for children. Is that the primary focus?
No,
No,
that's
okay.
actually a misconception in this area, is that, oh, you just offer stuff for kids and bereaved parents. Where that was our personal story, we actually serve grievers of all ages. We have programs for children, teens, and adults. We actually have 6 adult grief support groups. Many of them are once a month on Thursday evenings, but we also have a weekly daytime group. So we have specific groups for bereaved spouses, bereaved parents. We have a group called Healing Together, which is any adult grieving the death of any loved one from any circumstance. We have 2 arts and crafts-based groups because we're trying to help grievers identify positive coping skills. And for quite a few people, when you can sit and do arts and crafts, or, you know, we can teach knitting and things like that, it just can really help on the healing process. You know, if you've ever been in a room with a therapy dog, it just gives you enough of a distraction that you can talk and process big things, but it doesn't feel as big. That's what arts and crafts can do for a lot of grievers. So we have a group called Grief Knits, but it's any arts and crafts, but we'll teach knitting too.
And your services are free, correct?
Yes. That's our mission, to provide free grief support services.
And that's incredible. I can imagine that when you experience a death and you need to go through those big emotions, therapy is the first thing that comes to mind. But a lot of places have a waiting list. It's expensive, and you need to start dealing with those emotions, I would assume, soon, you know, quicker rather than later.
And I'm sure some people also just tend to brush off the idea of going to therapy or seeking help outside of either their immediate family, or I'm sure in many cases, and this is the saddest cases of grieving, is that they withdraw into themselves and never fully are able to process or come out of it. I certainly don't mean to speak as someone who's dealt with it personally, but you hear all this about the process and how talking to someone may be the best thing that you can do who is not your husband, your spouse, you're certainly not your child if you have a second child, but that support system, which is massively important, is severely supplemented and supplemented well with help. And I want to ask you, Marcie, when you lost Drew, you talked about the coping, the knitting, the arts and crafts, things of that nature. What did you find? Well, I know everything's different for everyone, but what did you find was, looking back, and maybe even still, helped you the most?
I need to talk about it. And what you hit on about the people immediately around you, the problem in grief is when everybody's so deeply grieving, you don't have energy for anybody but yourself. So when you can reach out, what we call reaching out beyond the immediate grief surround, to seek support from fellow grievers that get it, from fellow grievers that have been farther on the grief journey, who have been through the firsts and the seconds and the thirds, and they can offer maybe some insight on, here's something that was helpful to me, this may or may not work for you. But what we try to get our grievers to truly understand is it's going to be different for everybody. We want to talk about a lot of different skills and strategies, but at the end of the day, you need to find one that works for you. So many people, they're well-intentioned, but they want to tell us how we should grieve, how long our grief should or shouldn't last, what we should or shouldn't do. And you can't do that. But people, they want to fix us. And it's like, we can't really be fixed. We need to figure out how to work through these things ourselves and really develop into a new and very different person. But so many people are not comfortable with grief. They don't want to sit with it. So what we offer, it's called peer-led grief support. So it's not counseling, it's not therapy. That's another reason we don't need to charge for it. But we call it surrounding yourself with people that get it, and there can be a lot of healing and hope within that.
I watched a couple grief counselors in different videos and scenarios, and they were helping people through various stages, all the way from the absolutely catastrophic to even the loss of, not trying to diminish, but the loss of a pet. And the propensity that we have to almost go nuclear on ourselves is it's a very human thing, and it's so good that you have tools in the tool bag. Is what this one of the ones that I watched. He's like, you don't rely only on one tool in your tool bag, and certainly don't solely rely on you if you are that one tool in your tool bag. And whether it is knitting or anything like that. My two aunts, anecdotally, both of them lost daughters. And I don't think any parent should ever have to bury their child. It's got to be the worst thing ever. And my one aunt had lost her daughter when she was 18. Her daughter was 16. But then fast forward 20 plus years later, and her sister lost her daughter, who was by this point almost 50 years old. But I remember the aunt that lost her daughter when she was 16, she said, and my other aunt's name is Bonnie, she said, Bonnie, I feel bad because you're now a member of a club that no one ever wants to be a member of.
Right, that's what we call it, yeah.
And she said, but I'm still in the club. So they would comfort one another.
Right.
Because I don't know how I know you can, but I don't know how you pull out of that. I really don't.
One step at a time.
Yep.
In the beginning, it's 1 minute at a time.
Sure.
1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And eventually you hope that, you can move forward to 1 week, 1 month, 1 year.
And that's why you're here.
But we get through it together.
Yeah.
And that's why Drew, as you said, is still here.
Right.
Still living on.
So, Marcie, as you're speaking, if this is resonating with somebody and they're thinking, I lost somebody and I could really use some support, how would you encourage someone to start? At the website, come to the facility, just come to a session or a class?
Well, on our website, we have an events tab and a grief support tab, and that does talk about all of the different programs that we offer, because outside of our regular support groups, we'll have children's workshops, teen workshops. We have a Grief Reads book club, discussion group. So, and then, of course, with the holidays coming, we'll have a remembrance ornament making workshop. So it's a drop-in time for anyone in the community. But I say, start perusing the website. Start looking at our Facebook page, because I do tend to share a lot of helpful articles and other resources that we find helpful. Give us a call. Our office is usually staffed Tuesday through Thursday, My assistant Bethany has a degree in counseling, and she's really good to talk to as well and knows our resources inside and out just like I would. We don't have open hours, so people could come tour by appointment, our grief center. And then we do love RSVPs for our groups just because, especially with winter coming, if it gets canceled, we want people to know and not make the trip. It helps us know how many supplies to have if it's an arts and crafts-based group, how many chairs to set up, how many snacks to buy. We always have a well-stocked fridge and snacks too.
And I don't know if you still do this, but a friend of mine went to one of the, what would you say, workshops or class? I don't know what
it could have been one of our family programs too.
One of the programs that you offer. And she said that you provide dinner.
Okay,
you
so
kind of sit around and have a dinner.
That's our family program. So in addition to the 6 adult groups that we offer, our biggest program is actually called Drew's Hope. And Drew's Hope is a program for kids or grandkids 18 and under who are grieving the death of a loved one. And then they, along with any adult, caring adult or adult family member that's accompanying the child on that grief journey, will come. It's 7 sessions, each fall in spring, and that meets on campus at Shippensburg University. There's an elementary school that allows us to use their space. So we can serve dinner each night from 6 to 6:30 in the multipurpose room, followed by separate support groups for children, teens, and adults. It's just nice for everybody to have their own space, because sometimes kids will subconsciously grieve to protect the adult, and we want them to be able to have their own spaces where they can talk about what they need to talk about. We can teach the kids different positive coping skills while the adults get, maybe a DVD on meeting the needs of the grieving child or more adult discussion and education about grief. One statistic that we've learned over the years is that the functioning level of the surviving parent is one of the primary factors in how a child will grieve in the case of parent loss. So we really want to make sure the adults are well supported so that they can help the kids too.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tiny. I know you had shared a statistic earlier about children's grief in this particular area. Is it fairly prevalent?
In the state of Pennsylvania, there is something called the Childhood Bereavement Estimation Model done by our friends at Judy's House in Denver, Colorado. And they keep nationwide statistics and then state-by-state statistics. I think people would be surprised to learn that in the state of Pennsylvania, 1 in 11 children will grieve the death of a parent or sibling by age 18.
Wow.
That's 9.3% of all kids. So, we're not in the schools a lot. We don't talk about this stuff in schools, but, teachers have an awful lot of kids in their classrooms that really need them to have a better understanding of grief and grief support. So we love doing community presentations about grief and grief education. It's just really tough. And if you take that number out to age 25, it more than doubles. And that's just parent and sibling loss. So, what about grandparents, caregivers, cousins, best friends?
Best friends, sure.
And then, we deal with grief due to the death of a loved one. But, there's so much grief out there. During COVID, I found a positive coping skill for me was cooking and baking. Thank heavens I had porch drop-offs at my neighbor's house so I could share that.
Right.
But I think there's just so much grief out there that if we as a society can get better at just learning about grief, what it is, how we feel, how to support each other through it, it would be better. But often nobody's willing to have the conversation that we're having today until it happens.
Right.
And then you don't have that well-stocked grief toolbox like you had talked about earlier.
And it's great that you were able to come today, because today is Children's Grief Awareness Day.
Yes, it is.
And do you have any events happening around this day?
So Children's Grief Awareness Day happens each year on the 3rd Thursday in November. So we have been part of a nationwide campaign of hundreds of grief centers around the country to encourage people to wear blue to show their support for grieving kids. So I was saying I should have been here. I should have been here yesterday.
Did you really?
I wore a blue scarf.
There you go.
That's blue?
It is. It's a very, very light blue.
I had blue jeans on.
There you go.
There we
See,
go.
you guys count. And then so people, maybe coworkers or friends or families, have been sending us pictures throughout the day. The first picture we got this morning was the staff at Shippensburg Area Senior High School all out in front of the Greyhound statue in their blue, showing their support for grieving kids. So throughout the day, we're posting those pictures to our Facebook page. We actually last weekend had a luminaria workshop where people could come make decorate glass luminarias to help bring light to this holiday season. And that's why Children's Grief Awareness Day started, because we're going into a holiday season, which can be so difficult. So we're saying, how do we shine the light of healing and the light of hope on that? So we started sort of pre-Children's Grief Awareness Day with a luminaria workshop. Tonight we actually have a combined Healing Together and Bereaved Parent Support Group, because our Bereaved Parents group would normally meet the fourth Thursday of each month, but that's Thanksgiving. So every November we have a joint meeting, so we'll have those two groups come together from 7 to 8:30 tonight.
And Marcie, is there an event that you guys participate in or put on that's a favorite that stands out?
We do. My favorite event of the year is called the Blue Butterfly Ball. So a lot of communities, including the Greencastle community and other local areas, have daddy-daughter dances. And they're great because they celebrate a really special relationship. Other people have mother-son teas and things like that. But if you think about the population we're serving, a lot of these families don't have those relationships and really don't feel comfortable attending those events, even if they're told you can bring anybody you want. So between Mother's Day and Father's Day each year, we offer, again, it's a free event. It's called the Blue Butterfly Ball. And it's a dance for grieving families. No matter what grief has been suffered, no matter what that family looks like now, they are invited to come, and there's a wedding venue called Heritage Restored Farm in Newburgh. The owners are friends who gift the space to us. So between Mother's Day and Father's Day, a tough time of year, our families gather together. We've actually brought the Lizzie's food truck, which I know is a local great food truck.
Yes, it is.
They come, serve really family-friendly food. We have a DJ, we have dancing, we have lawn games, we have a tiara and crown making station, and some beautiful young ladies from Heather Rose Dance Studio in Shippensburg dress as the grieving Disney princesses. So the grieving Disney princesses make an appearance at the ball, along with Carlisle Ice Fest Queen winners. They bring their court. So there's tiaras everywhere. It's really a fabulous way to celebrate family and have an event that offers joy. So we would encourage anybody, when you see the daddy-daughter dances and mother-son teas, fully participate in them if you can, because we want those relationships celebrated while people can do that. But for those families that don't feel comfortable at those programs, please know that we are offering a beautiful event each year. They would just reach out to us through our website or our Facebook page and ask more information about it. And when we have that date set, we will start publicizing it.
And with the last little bit of time that we have here, Marcie, what is the website and where can people find you?
Our website is www.drewmichaeltaylor.org or our Drew Michael Taylor Foundation Facebook page. We do have Instagram and X, but I'm not as good at posting to those.
I can understand.
I'm a little older.
Same
I'm the Facebook generation. But yeah, they can reach out to us through that. And we're launching a new website really soon, so hopefully it'll be more user-friendly.
And thank you for sharing your story, and thanks for what you do in the community. It's really powerful.
You and your organization, and especially Drew, are a treasure.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.